Hey, we are in Second Samuel chapter 21 and 22. Some interesting things happened in our text today, especially in 21. And you kind of wonder, was God involved in this? Was God not involved with it? Did he ordain this? Is this the way it's supposed to be? And so as we read it, here's one of the most important verses that we're going to read today is the very first verse of chapter 21, verse 1. So as we read that, keep that in your mind, and then we'll come back to hopefully explaining what things were taking place. So it's 2 Samuel chapter 21 and chapter 22. There was a famine during David's reign that lasted for 3 years. So David asked the Lord about it, and the Lord said, "The famine has come because Saul and his family are guilty of murdering the Gibeonites." So the king summoned the Gibeonites. They were not part of Israel, but were all what was left of the nation of the Amorites. The people of Israel had sworn not to kill them, but Saul, in his zeal for Israel and Judah, had tried to wipe them out. David asked them, "What can I do for you? How can I make amends so that you will bless the Lord's people again?" "Well, money can't settle this matter between us and us and the family of Saul," the Gibeonites replied. "Neither can we demand the life of anyone in Israel." "What can I do then?" David asked. "Just tell me what I will do, and just tell me, and I will do it for you." Then they replied, "It was Saul who planned to destroy us, to keep us from having any place at all in the territory of Israel. So let 7 of Saul's sons be handed over to us, and we will execute them before the Lord at Gibeon, on the mountain of the Lord." "All right," the king said, "I'll do it." The king spared Jonathan's son Mephibosheth, who was Saul's grandson, because of the oath that David and Jonathan had sworn before the Lord. But he gave them Saul's 2 sons, Armoni and Mephibosheth, whose mother was Rizpah, daughter of Ai. He also gave them the 5 sons of Saul's daughter Merab, the wife of Adriel, son of Barzillai from Maholah. The men of Gibeon executed them on the mountain before the Lord, so all 7 of them died together at the beginning of the barley harvest. Then Rizpah, daughter of Ai, the mother of 2 of the men, spread burlap on a rock and stayed there the entire harvest season. She prevented the scavenger birds from tearing at their bodies during the day and stopped wild animals from eating them at night. When David learned what Rizpah, Saul's concubine, had done, he went to the people of Jabesh Gilead and retrieved the bones of Saul and his son. When the Philistines had killed Saul and Jonathan on Mount Gilboa, the people of Jabesh Gilead stole their bodies from the public square of Bethshan, where the Philistines had hung them. So David obtained the bones of Saul and Jonathan, as well as the bones of the men of the Gibeonites had executed. Then the king ordered that they bury the bones in the tomb of Kish, Saul's father, at the town of Zelah, in the land of Benjamin. After that, God ended the famine in the land. Once again, the Philistines were at war with Israel, and when David and his men were in the thick of battle, David became weak and exhausted. Ishbi-benob was a descendant of the giants. His bronze spearhead weighed more than 7 pounds, and he was armed with a new sword. He had cornered David and was about to kill him, but Abishai, son of Zeruiah, came to David's rescue and killed the Philistine. Then David's men declared, "You're not going out to battle with us again. Why risk snuffing out the light of Israel?" After this, there was another battle against the Philistines at Gob. As they fought, Sibbecai from Husha killed Saiph, another descendant of the giants. During another battle at Gob, Elhanan, son of Jair, from Bethlehem, killed the brother of Goliath of Gath. The handle of his spear was as thick as a weaver's beam. In another battle with the Philistines at Gath, they encountered a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all, who was also a descendant of the giants. But when he defied and taunted Israel, he was killed by Jonathan, the son of David's brother Shimei. These 4 Philistines were descendants of the giants of Gath, but David and his warriors killed them. David sang this song to the Lord on the day the Lord rescued him from all his enemies and from Saul. He sang, The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my Savior. My God is my rock, in whom I have find protection. He is my shield, the power that saves me in my place of safety. He is my refuge, my Savior, the one who saves me from violence. I called on the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and he saved me from my enemies. The waves of death overwhelmed me, floods of destruction swept over me. The grave wrapped its rope around me. Death laid a trap in my path. But in my distress, I cried out to the Lord. Yes, I cried out to my God for help, and he heard me from my sanctuary. My cry reached his ears. Then the earth quaked and trembled. The foundations of the heavens shook. They quaked because of his anger. Smoke poured from his nostrils. Fierce flames leaped from his mouth. Glowing coals blazed forth from him. He opened the heavens and came down. Dark storm clouds were beneath his feet. Mounted on a mighty angelic being, he flew, soaring on the wings of the wind. He shrouded himself in darkness, veiling his approach with dense rain clouds. A great brightness shone around him, and burning coals blazed forth. The Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of a Most High resounded. He shot arrows and scattered his enemies. His lightning flashed, and they were confused. Then at the command of the Lord, at the blast of his breath, the bottom of the sea could be seen, and the foundations of the earth were laid bare. He reached down from heaven and rescued me. He drew me out of the deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemies, from those who hated me and were too strong for me. They attacked me at a moment when I was in distress, but the Lord supported me. He led me to a place of safety, and he rescued me because he delights in me. The Lord rewarded me for doing right. He restored me because of my innocence. For I have kept the ways of the Lord, and I have not turned from God, my God, to follow evil. I have followed all his regulations. I have never abandoned his decrees. I am blameless before God. I have kept myself from sin. The Lord rewarded me for doing right. He has seen my innocence. To the faithful, show yourself faithful. To those with integrity, you show integrity. To the pure, you show yourself pure, but to the crooked, you show yourself shrewd. You rescue the humble, but your eyes watch the proud and humiliate them. O Lord, you are my lamp. The Lord lights up my darkness. In your strength, I can crush an army. With my God, I can scale any wall. God's way is perfect, and all the Lord's promises prove true. He is a shield for all who look to him for protection. For who is God except the Lord? Who but our God is a solid rock? God is my strong fortress, and he makes my way perfect. And he makes me as sure-footed as a deer, enabling me to stand on mountain heights. He trains my hands for battle. He strengthens my arm to draw a bronze bow. You have given me your shield of victory. Your help has made me great. You have made a wide path for my feet to keep them from slipping. I chased my enemies and destroyed them. I did not stop until they were conquered. I consumed them. I struck them down so they did not give up. They fell beneath my feet. You have armed me with strength for the battle. You have subdued my enemies under my feet. You placed my foot on their necks. I have destroyed all who hated me. They looked for help, but no one came to their rescue. They even cried to the Lord, but he refused to answer. I ground them as fine as the dust of the earth. I trampled them in the gutter like dirt. You gave me victory over my accusers. You preserved me as the ruler over nations. People I don't even know now serve me. Foreign nations cringe before me. As soon as they hear of me, they submit. They all lose their courage and come trembling from their strongholds. The Lord lives. Praise to my rock. May God, the rock of my salvation, be exalted. He is the God who pays back those who harm me. He brings down the nations under me, and he delivers me from my enemies. You hold me safe beyond the reach of my enemies. You save me from violent opponents. For this, O Lord, I will praise you among the nations. I will sing praises to your name. You give great victories to your king. You show unfailing love to your anointed, to David and to all his descendants forever. So let me show you, just to get back to make sure that we know what we're looking at. I want you to see that, remember, Jerusalem, city of David. This is where David is living. Ooh, we need to change that color, don't we? All right, Jerusalem, city of David. Gibeonite, the Gibeons, there. They go to Jabesh Gilead, where Saul's descendants are living. Gath, remember, is where Goliath is from, and where those other giants were coming from that David kills. So there we can kind of get a lay of the land that has taken place. But let's go back to this one verse to think, why would David give up Saul's family like that? Now remember, Joshua had made a deal with the Gibeonites when they had entered the land to say that we would keep you safe. Then Saul comes in and breaks that promise that Joshua had made. Now David is trying to make up for that because he finds out that the reason for this famine is because of the way the Israelites have treated the Gibeonites, mainly Saul. But in verse 1, here's something interesting that we don't want to lose sight of. There was a famine during David's reign that lasted for 3 years. So David asked the Lord, and the Lord said, the famine has come because Saul, but not just Saul, and his family are guilty. See, here's what we're guessing, or what we're thinking, is that the fruit of Saul and the bad fruit in Saul didn't fall far from the tree, that his kids were evil, and that they were doing bad things, and they were not being faithful to God. And so God says, listen, this is a family thing, this is a generation thing, and it is fine for us to give them to the Gibeonites to kill. And so it's just a reminder for us that when we sin, and the way that we live gets soaked up by those that are close to us. And oftentimes we see sins in dad, we see sins in the son, we see sins in mom, we see sins in the daughter, and it transfers down. And so our goal should be to be the best Christian that we can be, because our actions in our life has lasting effects. So have a great day.